In a dramatic battle for power, Texas Democrats have taken a bold stand against Republican efforts to redraw congressional district boundaries. Here's the surprise twist. While many of their colleagues have fled to other states, one determined Democrat has chosen to remain and fight this contentious redistricting plan. Texas Republicans are pursuing an ambitious initiative to alter district maps in the middle of the decade. An unusual move that could potentially reshape 5 districts into seats that favor the GOP. This shift would significantly bolster the Republican Party's position in the upcoming midterm elections. To thwart this maneuver, many Democratic lawmakers have traveled to states like Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts, effectively denying the legislature the necessary quorum to pass the proposed changes. But on the ground in Austin, a handful of Democrats, including State Representative Richard Peña Raymond, have chosen to stay behind and confront the challenge directly. Austin. Over the past week, Representative Raymond has been navigating the largely deserted corridors of the Texas state capitol, seeking out Republican legislators to engage them in conversation and plead the case against what many see as an alarming redistricting plot that could escalate to the U.S. Supreme Court. On the House floor, just a stone's throw from his office, Republican lawmakers are actively strategizing to implement this mid-decade redistricting scheme. The newly proposed congressional map is designed to effectively add 5 seats that favor Republican candidates, thereby reinforcing their slim grip on power in the U.S. House of Representatives. While most of his Democratic peers chose to vacate the state to disrupt a legislative quorum, Raymond has taken a different approach. He remains determined to persuade, negotiate, and rally support to defeat what he perceives as a political crisis. Reflecting on the urgency of the situation, Raymond, who has served as a state lawmaker since 2001, feels a heavy sense of déjà vu. Back in 2003, when Republicans attempted to redraw district lines outside the traditional once-a-decade cycle that follows the census, Raymond was directly involved as a member of the Redistricting Committee and was a vocal critic of those efforts. When those redistricting proposals ultimately passed, he found himself named as a plaintiff in a lawsuit that transcended into a battle reaching the U.S. Supreme Court. The current situation, according to Raymond, carries even greater significance than what transpired 2 decades ago. 2003 pivotal moment for us. We endured a lot then, he stated in an interview from his office at the Capitol. I truly believe the actions we're witnessing right now will similarly be viewed as history-defining. The latest conflict ignited when former President Donald Trump, alongside White House officials, encouraged Texas Republicans to revise the voting maps to secure 5 additional Republican-friendly seats in the U.S. House. In a strategic response, Democrats retreated to places like Illinois, even traveling as far as New York and Massachusetts, to obstruct quorum procedures in the Texas legislature, a requirement for any business to be conducted. The stakes are considerable. If the Texas GOP successfully gains these 5 additional congressional seats, it would grant the party a firmer hold on an already closely divided House, enabling them to further a robust agenda that many critics label as one of the most disruptive in recent history. As Democrats continue to amplify their calls for accountability in Washington, they fear that a stronger Republican presence could entrench agendas bordering on authoritarianism. With the 2027 Congress poised to either investigate or create legislative bottlenecks, perhaps even lead to a 3rd impeachment, this redistricting episode could have lasting implications. Moreover, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued threats to apprehend those Democratic lawmakers absent from legislative duties, while the Justice Department has expressed intentions to locate these missing representatives. On August 8th, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton escalated matters by seeking a ruling from the state's Supreme Court to remove 13 Democratic lawmakers from their positions, arguing that they effectively abandoned their responsibilities by leaving Texas. This power struggle has ignited a redistricting arms race, prompting leaders in other blue states to enact measures to create districts more favorable to Democrats in a bid to counteract the efforts in Texas. Lawmakers in Republican-dominated states such as Indiana and Missouri are also contemplating similar moves, with Vice President J.D. Vance convening discussions with Indiana officials concerning potential map revisions. The history of redistricting conflicts in Texas is not a new phenomenon. Back in 2003, a similar scenario unfolded when Texas Republicans sought to redraw district lines just 3 years post-census, which led to state Democrats seeking refuge in a Holiday Inn across the border in Oklahoma, beyond the reach of Texas law enforcement. Raymond vividly remembers that battle. He was deeply involved in voicing concerns, challenging Republican strategies, and questioning the fairness inherent in gerrymandering for political gain, aiming to ensure his objections were formally recorded, making it more difficult for the GOP to dismiss the views of the opposition. Ultimately, the Texas legislature approved the revised maps, but subsequent lawsuits led the case to the Supreme Court. A narrow 5-4 ruling upheld the majority of the redistricting plan, though it also identified that aspects of the redrawn districts infringed on the Voting Rights Act, notably diminishing the electoral power of Latino constituencies. As a result, a plan to divide Raymond's hometown of Laredo was ultimately scrapped. Reflecting on those past battles, Raymond acknowledges it was a partial victory, likening it to a 50-50 outcome, yet a victory nonetheless. In the midst of this atmosphere of uncertainty, Raymond maintained a busy schedule on August 8th, roaming from his office to the House chamber and engaging with fellow legislators from both sides of the aisle, often exchanging jests and building camaraderie along the way. He emphasizes the importance of keeping communication open, referencing a common saying from his community, hablando se entiende, meaning speaking to each other. You're able to understand each other. Raymond prides himself on his ability to connect with his peers, stating, "Throughout my career, I have made it a point to engage with everyone, getting to know my fellow legislators. That commitment remains steadfast." Representing a predominantly Latino district that stretches from Laredo along the U.S.-Mexico border, Raymond has witnessed firsthand the shifting political landscape. His district is home to nearly 183,000 residents, many of whom may align with Republican ideals, especially given Trump's noteworthy gains in traditionally blue border counties during the last election. The changing allegiances among border residents create a challenging balancing act for representatives in those areas, leading them to be cautious about their affiliations with national Democratic figures like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who is seen as a key supporter of the Texas Democrats during this crisis. Political analyst Mark Jones of Rice University notes that it is telling that a majority of those Democrats who stayed are from districts along the border. Jones adds that the unwavering focus of Texas Republicans on preserving the new redistricting plans will likely outmaneuver the attempts by Raymond and his Democratic colleagues to alter them. In his assessment, it is unlikely that efforts to counteract the redistricting will succeed given the current political dynamics. Raymond acknowledges the daunting nature of his challenge, likening it to the mythical figure Sisyphus, eternally pushing a boulder uphill. He fears that if the redistricting issue escalates to the Supreme Court again, it could play out under very different rulings from a court favorable to Republican priorities. Yet, through all this, Raymond remains resolute in his efforts. When the pressure mounts, he reminds himself that his fellow lawmakers also cherish their state and nation, each striving to implement their vision for a better future. While we may disagree on the road we take, I never doubt their intentions, he expressed. I always start our discussions from that shared understanding. The brief session on August 8 concluded rapidly, with a mere 8 minutes passing from start to adjournment. House Speaker Dustin Burrows acknowledged the ongoing lack of a quorum, admonishing absent members before closing the session until August 11th. As soon as the gavel fell, Raymond resumed his efforts, turning once more to engage with his fellow lawmakers, determined to make his voice heard.